Hello, hello. Let's get started. Dzień dobry, nie wiem, czy już mnie widać, ale mówię Wam dzień dobry. Witam się z Wami bardzo, bardzo serdecznie. Dzisiaj mamy webinar gramatyczny, ale mam nadzieję, że Was to nie zniechęci i będziecie ze mną. Za chwileczkę kilka słów wstępu na temat tego, jakie jest Wasze podejście w ogóle do tych zagadnień gramatycznych. Chciałabym Was trochę zachęcić do tego dzisiaj, żebyście zwrócili uwagę na pewne zagadnienia, które są bardzo proste do zapamiętania i pewne zasady, dzięki którym Wasza wypowiedź nabierze płynności, ponieważ będziecie świadomi tego, jak łączyć ze sobą słowa i jak budować zdania tak, żeby one brzmiały po prostu poprawnie. Także za chwileczkę powiemy sobie kilka słów na ten temat, natomiast chciałabym się z Wami przywitać i bardzo będę wdzięczna, jeżeli się również przywitacie ze mną i ze sobą nawzajem. Także dajcie znać, czy jesteście ze mną, kto dzisiaj przybywa na nasz webinar. Ja nie wysłałam dzisiaj, wysłałam wczoraj newsletter i mam nadzieję, że do Was dotarły te informacje, że dzisiaj mamy spotkanie, ale niestety dzisiaj już drugi newsletter nie wyszedł ode mnie, a mimo to mam nadzieję, że będziecie ze mną i że nie zapomnieliście o naszym dzisiejszym spotkaniu. Ok, dajcie znać, czy wszystko w porządku, czy mnie dobrze słychać i za chwileczkę kilka słów wstępu na temat gramatyki, bo dzisiaj jest gramatyka, to brzmi strasznie czasami i ja wiem, bo bardzo często osoby, które przychodzą do mnie na konsultacje mówią, że ja nie chcę się uczyć gramatyki. I ja się z tym oczywiście zgadzam wówczas i prowadzę tak zajęcia, tak nasze spotkania, żeby tę gramatykę tylko przemycać i żeby nie była ona naszym jakby głównym fokusem, ale żeby powiedzieć o pewnych zasadach i żeby zwrócić uwagę na pewne zasady tak, żeby zautomatyzować cały proces wypowiedzi i żeby te zasady po prostu były w użyciu, a nie tylko w teorii, bo o to nam chodzi. Moje podejście jest takie, że uczymy się tego, co nam się przydaje w komunikacji po to, żeby mieć później pewność, że nasza wypowiedź jest poprawna i że jest na tyle poprawna, że inni mogą nas zrozumieć. Dajcie proszę znać, czy ja jestem w dobrym miejscu w ogóle. Mam nadzieję, że tak. Aha, bo widzę, że jestem źle tutaj zalogowana na Facebooku. Mam nadzieję, że to w niczym nie przeszkodzi i jeszcze raz spojrzę, czy komentujecie, bo być może tak, ja z tego miejsca mogę nie widzieć Waszych jeszcze komentarzy. Bardzo będę Wam wdzięczna, jeżeli napiszecie, bo jestem zalogowana na prywatnym koncie i mam nadzieję, że to w niczym nie przeszkadza, że transmisja jest w dobrym miejscu. Jest, Monika jest, pisze, że wszystko jest ok i Dominika, morning Monika, morning Dominika. Nice to see you ladies, nice to see you guys, all of you today. I hope that you'll be with me. And those of you who have registered for our today's webinar will get materials from me. It will be a PDF, which I'm gonna present to you. Okay, so a few words first. I'd like you to tell me, to share with me your attitude towards grammar. Do you think you are good at grammar? Do you like learning grammar? And do you think that the rules that you have learned before are used by you in everyday communication? Hi, Agnieszka, nice to see you. Okay, so good morning, everyone. I think that we can get started by this short exchange of your attitude towards grammar. So please, could you comment in the chat box if you think that you are quite confident when it comes to grammar. And one thing which I'd like to point out today, which I'd like to emphasize, is the following thing. Remember that grammar is not only about tenses, the English tenses, okay? There is much more than just the tenses. And obviously, to be fluent in English, you need to master the tenses. First of all, that's the vital, crucial thing. However, there are some other things which will help you build your sentences with confidence, correctly, and if you feel that you've got control over what you are saying, it means that you are more confident and you can become a more advanced and a more confident speaker. Okay, today we are going to take a look at two different forms of the verb, okay? And mind you, verbs are the words that you should spot, first of all, when you are reading a sentence or when you are listening to somebody speaking, try to focus on the verbs because verbs carry the most meaning in a sentence. And it's crucial, vital to, of course, notice the verb, spot the verb in a sentence, but also be aware of some collocations, which we talked about last week. Were you with me last week? Who was with me last week? And if you were present, not last week, 2 weeks before, time flies really. So yeah, I lost the sense of time a little bit, but of course it was 2 weeks back. If you attended my webinar 2 weeks before, it was, as far as I remember, on the 16th of September. I told you a lot about collocations then and how collocations are important to automate your speech and make it more fluent. Because if you remember collocations, you by force of habit put some words together and you have a ready sentence to be used. Okay. Today, we are going to talk about connections or different forms of the verb, connections as well with other words, but basically we are focusing today on the infinitive and the gerund. And both terms might seem quite daunting, okay? You might be daunted a little bit by the fact that we are going to talk about grammar, talk about the infinitive and the gerund form, but don't worry, I'll explain everything to you using some very practical examples. So please stick around, listen to me today, and I think that you will benefit from our meeting. Okay, yeah, Monica says, indeed, it's been a fortnight since your last webinar, Kasia. Yeah, it seems like that, but I cannot feel that it's been 2 weeks and that 2 weeks has passed already. And, time is impossible to not to lose track of time is hardly possible these days. So as I said before, the time flies simply. Okay, so are you ready for my presentation? Okay, so let me share the screen with you now, and I'll be presenting a PDF which I have got ready for you. And obviously, those of you who have registered for this webinar today will get hold of this file from me. So you will find it in your email boxes. Okay, so those of you who have registered, and you can still do it, you can find our event on Facebook and register, and then you will get the file from me. Okay, let me just share the screen. Okay, I'm getting better and better with these technicalities. I can switch easily from the presentation to Facebook. All right, yeah. Okay, so yeah, neither can I, to be honest. I've lost track of time too, Monica says. Yeah, it's difficult, it's like Monday and Friday and Monday again. The weekend passes so quickly that we can hardly notice. But it's important to recharge your batteries. And okay, before we start talking about grammar, boring grammar, it's not gonna be boring today. I'm gonna present it in a nice and comprehensible way to you. However, would you be interested in attending a webinar on motivation and how to manage your time with English? Okay, because I'm planning to give you some examples from my personal perspective as for time management and as for how to boost, how to increase your motivation. Hi, Isa, nice to see you. Nice to see you. How to boost your motivation even if you don't feel like studying. All right, so I'm planning such webinar, and please let me know if you would be interested in attending such a meeting and if you would like it to be in English or in Polish perhaps. Okay, a webinar on motivation, on time management, on how to organize your time based on my personal story, okay, which it's never boring with you, Kasia. Thanks, Monica. And I'm really, really happy to see you again today. Okay, so guys, let's get started. All right. Okay, what you can see right now is something which you should recognize already, because it was 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks back, when I presented exact same table to you. It's not a table, but 2 columns with verbs which are followed by to and followed by ing. And I'm not going to spend any time today explaining these two columns to you, but I just put the information back because I wasn't sure if all of you have received my last PDF, and as this is something which is connected to what we are talking about today, I decided to use these two lists again today. And what is it all about? This first part of my PDF presents how to connect two verbs together. So on the left-hand side, you can see verbs which are followed by to, typically followed by to. So we afford to do something, appear to do, arrange to do, and so on. And on the right-hand side, you've got verbs followed by ing, like acknowledge doing, admit doing, advise doing, and so on. So I hope that you will find it helpful and useful. Of course, those of you who don't have my file, which I sent you last time. Okay, now what I'm gonna do now is scroll down a little bit, and I was too confident about my technical skills, so you need to wait for a while before I know how to do. All right, I need to stop sharing, and again I need to click here. All right, yeah, I've got the hang of it, it seems, finally. Okay, now apart from those two columns, those two lists, which you can see below, I put the verb suggest, okay? And why do I think that this is an important verb, and why do I think that it's really useful to pay special attention to it? Well, a lot of people make this mistake and put to after suggest. I don't know how this happens, but believe me, many people, a lot of people I cooperate with happen to make this mistake. So remember that suggest is followed by ing, never by to, and it's good to point it out, I believe. Isa asks me how I am. I'm good. I'm pretty good today. How about Isa? I hope that you are all fine, guys. Although the weather is a little bit gloomy today, but it's gonna be better tomorrow. Let's believe it. Okay, so coming back to suggest. So anyway, we suggest doing something. We don't use to after suggest, or we can use another structure, which is called in English, attention please, it's called subjunctive. A beautiful name, isn't it? Okay, subjunctive. I'm not gonna explain this structure to you, but I'd like you to remember the pattern only. So you can suggest that somebody should do something, like suggest that you should go, all right? You can suggest, you can omit that, and then you get suggest you should go, or suggest you go. I suggest you go. And that form is called subjunctive in English. You don't bother to remember the name of it, and don't worry if you won't, but try to use it in this way. You can suggest doing something, or you can suggest that somebody does or do even something, okay? Because it's subjunctive. So suggest that you should do, you can confidently use should after suggest. It's the easiest way to remember the structure. You can suggest that somebody should do, suggest somebody should do something, or I suggest you do something. All right, it's a little bit more advanced, but this is why we are here today. I'm gonna explain to you today some more advanced points when it comes to the use of to and ing. Okay, more advanced grammar today. Okay, now apart from suggest, I'd like you also to pay attention to some verbs which can be followed either by to or by ing with no difference in meaning. These are the following verbs: begin, start, or continue to do something or doing something, and like, love, to do something or doing something, hardly any difference in meaning. I'm not gonna explain the difference to you today because I'd like to focus on some other points today. Okay, some time ago, I had a webinar on ing and to plus verb, and even perhaps some of you participated in this event then. So I decided today to go over the basic things quite quickly, all right, not to bore you with some things that you probably know, and draw your attention to some more advanced points which you might not be aware of, okay? So, to plus infinitive. Let's start with that. And first of all, what's the infinitive? As you can find it and notice it in the title of today's webinar, I put there a very famous quote from a very famous playwright, okay? It's to be or not to be, okay? You probably, I assume you recognize the quote easily. And this is how the infinitive is used. And this is what the infinitive looks like. So to be or not to be, all right? That is the question. And to plus infinitive, like to do, is translated into Polish as robić, okay? But you can also use infinitive without to, okay? The so-called be infinitive. And I will show you some examples today of the be infinitive, okay? You can, for example, walk barefoot with no shoes on, all right? That's the word be. And I'm gonna concentrate on that today as well. Anyway, we've got the infinitive with to, like to do, or we've got the base form, which is also the infinitive without to, okay? After some verbs, this be form of the infinitive is used. Guess which verbs take this form, and I will explain to you later. From Shakespeare, of course, Monica, right? So the 16th century playwright, yeah? Okay. Sylvia, hello. And Isa says hello. Okay, yeah, all right. Very nice to see you guys today. So now coming back to plus infinitive. When do we need this form? To express purpose. And that's my first point on the list. To express purpose, meaning why somebody does something. So sentences, clauses which answer the question, why? Why would you do it? She went to Manchester to attend an international conference there, okay? To attend. We are planning a trip to Dubai to find new business partners. To find, why? To find new business partners. And you can also use this infinitive of purpose and the infinitive as such at the beginning of a sentence, and I'll show you some more examples later. Anyway, to express purpose, to help him understand, I showed him my presentation. To help him understand, okay? So again, why did I do it? To help him understand the purpose. I hope that's clear. Is it clear? Please confirm if everything is clear to you. Okay, now the second point, which I'd like to mention, and you might know that very well, and I'm pretty sure that you use this structure on a daily basis, but it's good to know why you use it in this way. After adjectives, if you use a verb after an adjective, if you put a verb after an adjective, you use to, okay? So it's helpful to learn English grammar. Of course it is. Who says it's not, okay? I find it difficult to understand French words. It was terrible to hear the shocking news. After helpful, to learn. After difficult, to understand. And after terrible, to hear, all right? So after adjectives, verbs take the form of the infinitive with to. With to. So it might be something which is mind-blowing to you today, that the infinitive can be used together with to or without to, which is called the be infinitive. Is it new, like new information? Does it sound like something that you haven't known before? Let me know, and I'll be sure that I'm on the right track to provide you with some new information, with something that you haven't realized before, all right? Okay, so we shall be moving on to the next one, which is to the next point, which is the be infinitive. And now you can see how this word is spelled. Okay, I'm sorry, I haven't zoomed in And you probably cannot see my presentation very clearly because now I just looked on my phone and it's pretty small. The print is pretty small. It should be better right now. Okay, yeah, much better, isn't it? Much better. Okay, so the verb infinitive. Now, after some verbs, and last time, actually 2 weeks back, when I was talking about collocations, you contributed by presenting the rule. Okay, I asked you then, after which verbs do we use the verb infinitive, the verb without to? And some of you contributed by saying after modal verbs. Well, of course, but of course, after modal verbs, you never use to. Can do, should do, must do. You need to remember that. Okay, do you remember that? Confirm if you do. And that's pretty obvious, isn't it? However, it happens that some people make a mistake. Again, it happens by force of habit. That's why very, very soon I'm gonna talk to you about habits and how to develop good habits in English when learning a foreign language. And I asked you a question, maybe not all of you have participated today from the beginning. So you haven't been with me since the beginning of the webinar today. So let me repeat the question. Would you be interested in a webinar about motivation, time management, and developing good habits in a language? Because this is what I'm actually preparing for you without even asking. And I hope that you will welcome this idea. So please let me know if you will come to my webinar on motivation, developing good habits. Okay. So again, putting the verb after a modal verb without to is our habit, because as early as at the beginning of your adventure with English, with the English language, you probably learned the first modal verb, which is can, and it happened at the very beginning of your of learning English. Yes. So of your learning acquisition, I should rather say. So at the very beginning of your learning acquisition, you learned the verb can. And since then, you have developed this habit of saying, I can do it. Okay, not I can too, because it's a huge mistake. However, it appears that some of you learned this structure in the wrong way. And those people struggle today with getting rid of or eradicating, because this is a very strong word and we should use it right now. You should eradicate this mistake of putting to after can, after should, after must. You mustn't do it, okay? You mustn't do it. So remember, if you happen to make this mistake, get rid of it right now, okay? So we can do it, we should do it, we must do it. However, apart from the modal verbs, okay, there are only a few of them, okay, a handful of modal verbs. We've got some other verbs and structures after which you don't need to. And I'd like you to notice make, let, see or hear. Okay, these are the verbs. And let me quote some examples now. They made me sign the document. Okay, so you make somebody do something, not to do something. Okay, remember that. So make is kind of exception from the rule. After make, we use the be infinitive. Be infinitive means the infinitive without to. The second example is let. Okay, you let somebody do something. The boss let us go home earlier. Let us go, because let has got 3 identical forms. It's let, let, let. That's why you use it in the similar way in the past. So the boss let us go. You let somebody do something. You don't use to. And number 3, see or hear somebody do something. You can see somebody do or perform an activity, an action. I saw her close the door, or I hear her. You can hear actually somebody close the door as well. Yeah, if somebody slams the door, you can hear somebody slam the door, okay? Make a loud noise doing it. Okay, so these are the examples of the be infinitive after the 4 verbs. It's so easy and simple to remember those verbs. because these are kind of exceptions from the rule. Now we've got two phrases as well to memorize, to remember: would rather and had better. And these phrases are also called unreal past phrases, and you can find them in any grammar book, including my book, okay, including mine, on the subject or together with the subject of unreal past, okay? So would rather, had better. An example: I'd rather go for something more innovative, okay? Or you'd better wait before the final decision. So I'd rather go, it expresses my preference, okay? It expresses my preference. I'd rather choose this, not that. And you'd better, it's like should, okay? You should wait before the final decision. You'd better wait, okay? So you can actually replace you'd better with should, okay? And I'd prefer to can replace I'd rather do something. So, but after I'd prefer, you typically use to, because that's a phrase followed by to infinitive. However, after I'd rather, you use the infinitive. Okay, are you with me? Please let me know if it sounds like fun to you to learn some grammar. Okay, and have I made things clear to you? Okay, you are not commenting, which is really a real pity, and I hope for more comments coming in. Okay, Isa says yes, that's wonderful, Isa. Okay, now I would like you also to, okay, if you follow what I'm saying and you don't want to comment, or you cannot comment right now because maybe you're driving a car, just send me a like, okay, or a heart, whatever you prefer. Okay, so shall we move on? I hope. Let's do it. Okay, some other phrases, some other verbs which are followed by to. And now this is something you might not realize, but you might be using on a daily basis. So here is the rule. After be, seem, or appear, you can use to as the subject of the clause. For example, to meet the deadline is impossible. So we put, okay, once again, the subject is put at the beginning, all right? So to meet the deadline is impossible. So we've got this, the infinitive used as the subject, and after that, we've got the verb to be. So to meet the deadline is impossible. It sounds like, I hope it sounds like reasonable, okay, understandable, let's say, or it makes sense, right? Does it? I hope it does. Okay, Grażyna says it's okay. Thanks for your comment. All right, so now, in order to reverse this sentence, to make it sound a little bit more natural, we use it as the introductory word, okay? So you kind of introduce this sentence using it. And I think the sentence which comes after that is like more natural to you, and you recognize the structure more easily now. It's impossible to meet the deadline, okay? So after the verb to be, we have this phrase, impossible to meet, okay? That's why I started from the other end, okay? All right, so let's come back to the beginning. To meet the deadline. So you put these two at the beginning, but as it doesn't sound much quite natural to you, you decide to reverse it and put it later on in the sentence, however you need it, okay? And some more examples of the same structure. It's risky to make any investments now, okay, after the verb to be. Or it seems hard to reach a compromise. Or it appears challenging to satisfy customer expectations. So this it is put at the beginning of the clause. Now, it makes more sense to you probably because we've mentioned the rule which tells you that after an adjective, you put to. So it does make sense because all of these examples include an adjective and to after the adjective. But what I mean here is how this it at the beginning, where does it come from? Okay, what is the rule? How you can explain the use of it at the beginning of this clause. So it is the introductory it, which you put at the beginning to use the subject, which used to be the infinitive, at the end, okay, or in the second part of your sentence. So it is risky too, it seems hard too, it appears challenging too, okay? So these are the examples. Okay, some other ideas, and actually I will give you a tip how to practice these rules. You don't need to remember the rule. I'm here to clarify the rule to you so that you know it makes sense. However, after that, you need to remember some examples. So just try to memorize a couple of examples or even come up with your own examples. You can write them down on this file that you will get from me and create some more sentences of the same kind. And in this way, this structure will get stuck in your head, okay, in your mind. So you will remember it much, much better. Okay, so to replace a relative clause, okay, notice that also these headings use the infinitive to replace a relative clause. So that's the infinitive of purpose. Why do we use the infinitive in this sentence? To replace a relative clause, okay? And a relative clause is the sentence which begins with that, which, or who. For example, let's change this first sentence into a relative clause. I have a report which I have to write, or which I must write, or which I need to write, okay? Which of that I need to write. So instead of this long clause describing this report and why, again, answering the question, why would you do that? You simply say, I have a report to write, okay? The second one, what do you have to say? So it's like, what do you have which you would like to say? Okay, what do you have that you would like to say? What do you have to say? Okay, it's not like have to must, but what do you have that you would like to say? Okay, notice this ambiguity here. Okay, the next one, which you probably know from the airport. If you travel a lot, you hear this sentence quite a lot at the airport. Have you got anything to declare? And you answer, no, I have nothing to declare. All right, nothing to declare. So I have nothing that I should declare, right? You can, of course, develop this structure more, but of course, if you communicate like in the informal speech, you would rather make your sentences shorter than longer, okay? All right, I need someone to talk to. And this is the infinitive with a preposition, a very, very important thing, a crucial, critical thing to learn in English, verbs plus prepositions, okay? I need someone to talk to. So you don't take away this preposition because this to at the end is not the infinitive. It doesn't mean that you put the infinitive after talk. It's a preposition, okay? So to is used as a preposition in this situation. Talk to, mówić do, rozmawiać z, okay? All right, the next one. Do you have a chair to sit on? Okay, to sit on. Not do you have a chair to sit, but you need to put on, okay, so that it makes sense, proper sense, so that it carries the proper meaning. You need a tool to repair it with, to repair something with, okay? So repair with, like a tool, with a tool. I need a tool which I could repair it with, or which I should use to repair this thing with, okay? Or with which I would like to repair this thing, okay? With which I'd like to repair it. So there are numerous variations of this sentence. However, possibilities of how to use it. However, this is the easiest one. You needed to, okay, I have a special box to store things in, okay? Do you have a box in which you could store some things? Yes, I have a special box to store things in, okay? And the preposition comes at the very end of this clause. And one more thing when it comes to the infinitive. Okay, now, I'd like you to realize, to kind of visualize now, that if you say to do, to be, to make, and so on, you talk about the present situation, okay? So in other words, to do or to be is the present infinitive. And it might be surprising, it can come as a surprise to you, that the infinitive also has the past form, okay? And it's called the perfect infinitive. You use this infinitive in the past, okay? So now, because you can get this impression that if we translate the infinitive to do as robić, it's not possible to use the infinitive in the past, and you might associate the infinitive only with the present. However, it is possible to put the infinitive to do in the past. And the thing that you do now is add have after to, right? It's like after a modal verb, you also add have. And actually, it refers to both the infinitive with to and the be infinitive as well. As we said before, after can, after could, after should, we use the so-called be infinitive, the infinitive without to. And to use a modal verb in the past in this meaning as it is supposed to be, you use the past infinitive, which is have plus the third form of the verb. Take a look at these two simple examples, okay? So the explanation might seem quite complex, but it's not. You could have told me she should have done it. These two examples clarify everything. You could have told me in the past, you should have done it before, not now, okay? Because if you say to somebody, and she should do it, it means now or in the future. But if you mean in the past, for example, the report hasn't been written, hasn't been prepared, you must say, she should have done it before, not now, okay? It's her obligation. This is what she's supposed to do, so she should have done it before. And this is how you put modal verbs, which don't have many past forms, in the past, with the literal meaning. Could meaning możliwie, że, możliwe, że. Should meaning powinieneś. So she should have done it. Now, some examples of to infinitive with the perfect or in the perfect form, meaning in the past form. He seems to, okay, it's okay, isn't it? It's clear, I hope. He seems to, and now we are moving back to the past, to have visited the place before. Okay, you cannot say he seems to visit the place before, because it doesn't make sense. If you say he seems to visit, it means now, but now you need to talk about the past. So how to put this sentence into the past? You just move the infinitive into the past using the perfect infinitive form, to have done. She's believed now to have gained a lot of experience working abroad. Okay, so she's believed now to have gained her experience before, when she was working abroad. Okay, clear? Is it clear? Just let me know, because this bit is a little bit more difficult, a little bit more challenging, and definitely much more advanced than the things which I told you at the beginning about. Okay, so they are considered now to have been the best in the industry. which means that they are no longer the best in the industry. Notice this difference. They are considered to be the best in the industry. It means they are the best in the industry. They can be proud. However, with the first sentence, they are considered to have been the best in the industry. It means there is nothing to be proud of because they are no longer the best in the industry. Okay, so it does make a difference. Notice it. And the final example, he pretends to have done it all by himself. He pretends to have done it. Okay. All right. Now, please write in the chat if it's clear. If it's clear, write yes. If it's not clear, write no. Okay. So I hope you'll comment, and I'm really counting on you now to comment, because I don't know if I can move on with some more knowledge today or not, or I should stop and come back to some more most important things. So just to recap at this point, the infinitive has got two forms: to plus infinitive or be infinitive without to. Okay, so it's like to be, to do, infinitive with to, and do alone without any forms, the infinitive without to. And how do we know that it's the infinitive, not the first form? For example, I do it every day. It's not the infinitive, it's the present form of the verb do. Well, you need to notice that after certain verbs, the infinitive, like after modal verbs, the infinitive does not have the form with to. Okay, so I can do it. This is the infinitive without to. But if you use the base form in a sentence, like which is related to the present simple tense, okay, you use I do. However, after a modal verb, it wouldn't be possible to add any forms to this verb. Okay, and this is crucial. You cannot add any forms after can. You can only put the same form. So she can do it, okay? No other form is possible. That's why we are talking about the be infinitive, because it does not take any other forms, okay? All right, no comments from you. So I'm a little bit worried because I don't know if what I'm saying is clear enough. Okay, so just to recap, all right? Infinitive with to, infinitive without to, be infinitive. And what we said today about the use of this form, okay, okay, I'll come back to suggest in a while. So the infinitive with to is used to express purpose. That's the first goal of the infinitive. After adjectives, and we've got several phrases after which, apart from modal verbs, after which we use the be infinitive without to. And you can also start your sentence with it, okay, like here, it is impossible to, it's risky to, and so on. You can replace a relative clause with an infinitive. I have a report to write instead of I have a report which I should write. And there is the so-called perfect infinitive, which is used to talk about the past. So if you mix the two tenses, or I mean, if you want to talk about a different time, a real time, I mean, and you've got you talk about the present and the past in the same sentence, and you use the infinitive, you put this infinitive in the past where necessary, okay? Okay, logical, but I have to practice it. Okay, yeah, so I think that the best way to practice these forms is, as I said before, use these examples and build your own examples. It will be much clearer, I promise, okay? I promise to you. Okay, now the second part, which is shorter, so don't worry, that's the longest part, the biggest part of knowledge, the biggest portion of knowledge, batch of knowledge that I have for you today, because I'm gonna tell you a few things about ing form, but it's not that long, okay? So bear with me for a little longer today. ing, which is called the gerund as well. And I'm not talking about participles, apart from the participle that you use to know to build the infinitive. I'm not talking about participles to build tenses, different structures. I'm just talking about the form with ing. So gerund means a verb with ing form, nothing more, okay? Ing, so like doing. And obviously, the first thing to remember is that in a very natural way, you can use ing, the gerund, as the subject of your sentence. For example, reading in English is easier than listening to it. Or you can, as we said before, use the infinitive in the same way, but we also put introductory it to sound better. It's easier to read in English than listen to it, okay? So you can express the same idea in two different ways. The second example is parking your car in the center is impossible these days. It's very difficult. Yes, impossible means very, very difficult. Parking your car in the center is impossible these days. Or you can say, I find it impossible to park a car in the center. So after find, you've got this possibility to create this sentence, such a sentence. Or I find parking in the center impossible. So you can skip it after find. I find parking impossible, okay? So you don't need to put it, I find it impossible. That's very much correct. However, to make it easier, you say, I find parking in the center impossible. And this is possible after the verb find, okay? So that's the first thing. Use ing as the subject of your sentence. Reading is nice, listening to some music is soothing, and so on. Now, the second point, after prepositions, and this is a rule which I always tell those of you who work with me. And even at advanced levels, people who use most of these structures correctly, most of them, because, you know, there is also some room for improvement. Now, people are not aware of this rule, and this is such a simple rule to remember. And every time we talk about things like ing or some other forms, or about adjectives, I try to remind you about this rule, okay? So please do remember it. After prepositions, if you put a verb after preposition, it needs to have the ing form, full stop. No discussion, no question about it, hands down, all right? So without waiting, interested in reading, sorry for keeping you waiting, after swimming, think of changing your job, okay? As simple as that. Okay, that's a rule. And okay, I put it twice as I can see, all right. And now, please notice that sometimes to doesn't mean that it's an infinitive, because to is also a preposition. That's why in these following examples, we use ing, because to is a preposition. It's not the infinitive. Look forward to. How do we know it's not the infinitive? Because if you remember that the phrase look forward is followed by to as a preposition, it's a matter of learning prepositional phrases, which I always advise you to do. Verbs plus prepositions, adjectives plus prepositions. And then you know that look forward to, okay? Look forward is followed by to. So that's why you know it's not the infinitive. Look forward to seeing you. I'm used to getting up early. I am used to getting up early. W sensie jestem przyzwyczajona do. And a very similar meaning with accustomed. She's accustomed to finishing work late. Okay, accustomed to, just like used to. And one more, which is worth remembering, I object to. Okay, I object to paying additionally for the service. Okay, I object to, okay, plus the infinitive, plus the gerund. Okay, plus the gerund, ing. Okay, I hope that's clear. Okay, two more things only. Okay, and that could be very, very useful because there is a difference in meaning. Okay, and this is what I like the most. If there are two similar structures, but there is a difference in meaning, it is very challenging. And this is very, very interesting, fascinating, isn't it? Okay, please confirm that grammar can be fun. Okay, so he insisted on presenting the sales figures, and he insisted on me or my presenting the sales figures. My could sound a little bit strange, weird, but this is how it is. You can use me or my in this sentence. Okay, so the possessive pronoun or the relative pronoun. Okay, not relative pronoun. Okay, me as the object. Okay, of of the verb. Okay, so yeah, he insisted on me or on my presenting the sales figures. All right, so what is the difference? What is the difference? So if I'm talking to him and he says, I insist on presenting the sales figures. Who does he mean? Who does he mean? Okay, that's the question. Once again, if he says, I insist on presenting the sales figures, who does he mean? Okay, who should present the sales figures? But if he says, I insist on you or on your presenting the sales figures, it's clear. Okay, so if somebody else needs to perform the action, because this ing here refers to the person or to the noun or to the pronoun, because in that case it's a pronoun which goes before it. Okay, so if we've got he insisted on presenting, this presenting refers to him. Okay, so he insisted on presenting. But if you want to emphasize that somebody else needs to do it, you mean somebody else, not the subject. You mean somebody else, not the subject. You need to add this person here. All right, so he insisted on me or my presenting the sales figures. And another example, she resented not being promoted. Okay, she resented me or my being promoted before her. Okay, so there is a difference in meaning. Notice that. Okay, so sometimes you need to put the proper pronoun. Okay, one more example, coming back to suggest, because now you should remember that suggest is followed by ing, not by to. And after suggest, we can also add another person if the person is different from the subject. So, for example, if I say, I suggest going, I probably mean myself and some other people, okay? But if I say, I suggest you should go, it's clear who I mean, okay? I suggest him going or his going in the same way. I suggest him or his going, okay? That's the same. That's the same way how it works. Okay. Finally, we are getting to the end. Perfect gerund. Okay, so we've got the perfect infinitive, to have done, but we also have the perfect gerund, like having done. And again, having done refers to the past. Okay, however, don't worry, it's not mandatory to use it every time, because actually I've prepared some examples. Take a look. He was accused of falsifying accounts, okay? Or he was accused of having falsified accounts. There is a slight difference because the second sentence indicates that this happened in the past and finished, yes? whereas he was accused of falsifying accounts can have some connection with the present, but it's not so important because people usually say the first version rather than the second one. But if you want to specify that it happened before, you can use the perfect gerund. He denied embezzling funds. Okay, it means what's the word in English? In Polish, I mean defraudować. Okay, he denied embezzling funds. He denied having embezzled funds. All right, so we obviously we clearly refer to the past if we put the perfect gerund, and that's the only example. That's the only way you can do it, but it's not necessary. It's not mandatory in every sentence, in every case. Okay, so do you have any questions or do you have any comments? Okay, could you please tell me what is your reaction to this knowledge, and or better still, or please let me know in the chat box if you find or if you have found anything new today. Okay, so what are you taking away from the webinar? And now let me recap again. I will wrap it up nicely for you, and I'd like you, when I'm going through the list of those points that I have covered today, please, if you notice something that you have found new today, please put it in the comments. Okay, put the information in the comments. Okay, so coming back to the beginning, we've got to infinitive and infinitive, the infinitive without to, okay, which is called the bar infinitive. We use the infinitive after to express purpose, okay, to express purpose, or after some adjectives. We can also use the infinitive to express purpose, or to after some verbs like be, seem, appear, putting it at the beginning. It's impossible to. We can replace a relative clause with to. I have a report to write. And we also have the perfect infinitive, okay? Like you could have told me, have plus the third form, to have plus the third form, or for the be infinitive, have plus the third form. So it looks like the present perfect, yeah? Okay, ing gerund, on the other hand, can be used as the subject of a sentence, is always used after prepositions, and to can be both the infinitive, can play the function of a part of the infinitive, yes, which is a compound of it, because it's not the only, it's not the infinitive, it's part of the infinitive, like to do, but it also serves the purpose of a preposition, okay? It is also a preposition, after which we need to use ing, because as for the previous rule, mind you, we always use ing after any preposition, including to, as a preposition. And finally, we can also think of examples where you use the infinitive referring to the subject, but also if you want to put a different person or refer to a different person who need to perform this action, you need to specify using, for example, me pronoun, me or my possessive pronoun, okay? And what else? And the gerund has also the form having done. So the perfect gerund also exists. Okay, any comments from you? No comments? No comments. It makes me really sad and disappointed a little bit. Okay, do you have any questions perhaps? Okay, it's time for Q&A now. Questions and answers. Okay, Q&A session starts now. So please write some comments. The grammar has been nicely grouped. Okay, thanks, Grażyna. I'm doing my best to make these things clear and nicely put, nicely expressed, because later on you can actually understand it better without too much theory, simply, okay? All right, so avoid theory and practice as much as possible. For each of those examples which I have presented to you today, you can think of your own examples, you can come up with your own sentences, and it will be easier, and your language will be more advanced, more developed if you use some of these structures. As for the rest, as for the easy structures, it's good to know why you are using them, okay? All right, so now only a couple of things from me. Let me switch to Polish now to finish off today. Słuchajcie, czyli zadałam wam dzisiaj pytanie, czy bylibyście zainteresowani webinarem o tym, jak się zmotywować do pracy nad językiem, nad biznesowym angielskim, ale to będzie w kontekście bardziej nacisku na motywację niż takich wskazówek co do nauki angielskiego, bo o tym już było wiele razy. I ci z was, którzy być może obserwują mnie od niedawna albo są nawet po raz pierwszy, jeśli ktoś jest po raz pierwszy, to proszę, żebyście mi dali znać, możecie znaleźć różne filmiki nadal na fanpage'u Angielski Biznesowy Katarzyna Janda. Tam są filmiki z różnych moich live'ów, webinarów, gdzie mówiłam też o gramatyce, o motywacji, o różnych rzeczach, ale skoncentrowałam się wtedy na podejściu do języka. Tutaj też planuję właśnie ten webinar o motywacji, o wyrabianiu dobrych nawyków i o tym, że można osiągnąć wiele tutaj w kontekście języka. Oczywiście możemy to rozszerzyć na praktycznie wszystko, ale chciałabym jednak ten kontekst zachować. Bardziej skupimy się na tym, jak się motywować w ogóle, jak wyrabiać dobre nawyki, jak pracować i jak się organizować generalnie w życiu, nawet jak nie mamy dużo czasu, żeby właśnie iść do przodu. I jeżeli was interesuje taki webinar, on może być po polsku lub po angielsku, myślę, że wolelibyście po angielsku, ja pewnie też, to myślę, że tak zrobię. Jeszcze będę was informowała w newsletterze. OK, i co więcej mogę dodać? Mogę jeszcze wam przypomnieć, bo tutaj też dostaniecie informacje w tym PDF-ie. Aha, tylko osoby, które się rejestrowały na dzisiejszy webinar, dostaną PDF. Rejestracja jeszcze jest otwarta, bodajże do godziny 16, więc jeszcze jak się skończy webinar, możecie wybrać tam, kliknąć w ten post, gdzie jest wydarzenie dzisiejsze i tam jest link do rejestracji. Te osoby, które się zarejestrują, otrzymają oczywiście dzisiaj te materiały, ten PDF i słuchajcie, ten PDF czy materiały będą wysyłane dzisiaj wieczorem albo jutro z samego rana, zatem proszę, żebyście się nie niecierpliwili, że nie ma jeszcze materiałów, bo chcę dać szansę osobom, które się jeszcze nie zarejestrowały, a być może będą oglądały ten webinar później, także wtedy wszystkim osobom zainteresowanym w jednym mailu wyślę oczywiście te materiały, także materiały do was dotrą, ale nie od razu po webinarze. I chciałam wam przypomnieć, że już upływa czas, kiedy mój e-book o czasach, pigułka tak zwana czasów gramatycznych, gdzie macie wszystko podane, co musicie wiedzieć w takiej pigułce jak dzisiaj, podobnej, ale tam jest dużo więcej, bo są ilustracje, dzięki którym łączycie od razu czas z daną sytuacją. Tam są wyjątki, tam są błędy podane, które często się zdarzają, żeby ich unikać. Tam są takie tips o tym, na co zwrócić szczególną uwagę, żeby nie popełnić jakiegoś błędu. Tam są piosenki, linki do piosenek, w których zauważacie konstrukcję, o której jest mowa i tam są też zadania z kluczem na koniec do zrobienia, podsumowujące każdy dział. Działów jest, teraz nie pamiętam, 6 albo 7. Oh my gosh, I don't remember. No nieważne, w każdym razie każdy dział, moduł jest poświęcony jednemu z czasów i są też czasy połączone, znaczy są pokazane zbieżności i pomiędzy tymi czasami i jak jest rozróżnić, ok? Czyli dużo fajnych rzeczy, pigułka i ta naprawdę cena jest w tej chwili bardzo atrakcyjna. Już e-book będzie za chwileczkę trafiał do sklepu, gdzie będzie cena w cenie 79 dostępny, więc jeszcze póki go nie ma w sklepie, na mojej stronie na mojej stronie katarzynajanda.pl, dopóki tam nie ma jeszcze tego e-booka, to jeszcze zakupicie go w cenie 49 zł, ale prawdę mówiąc od 1 października planowałam wstawić e-book już do sklepu, więc lada dzień to zrobię, być może jeszcze nie jutro, ale na dniach będzie już dodany do sklepu, więc tak naprawdę ostatnia szansa, żeby ten e-book zakupić właśnie w tej cenie i zaraz mam nadzieję, że mi się tu otworzy i będę mogła Wam wkleić. Tak, 49 zł, zatem on będzie na pewno droższy, ale słuchajcie, osoby, które mają mój kurs o czasach, to jest właśnie ten czas, nie kupują e-booka, bo macie go tam gratis. Dobrze? Pamiętajcie o tym. Te osoby, które mają kurs o czasach, nie kupują e-booka, bo mają go gratis. Teraz nie mogę tego kliknąć, ale muszę. Dobrze, mogę. Ode mnie tak, link poleciał. Link poleciał do czasów. Zatem jeszcze raz podkreślam, ostatnia szansa, żeby ten e-book w tej cenie zakupić, a na pewno Wam się przyda jako ściągawka, jako pigułka czasów. Można sobie ładnie wydrukować, zabindować, można komuś dać w prezencie nawet. Ok, i druga rzecz to jest to, że zostało jedno miejsce do programu Masterclass. To jest mój program premium, ale w wersji 1:3, czyli pracuję z 3 osobami, dlatego ten program jest nieco tańszy niż ten program premium, gdzie pracuję z 1 osobą. Nauka w 3 osoby jest bardzo fajna, już to zostało przetestowane w praktyce. I właśnie muszę jeszcze poprosić osoby, które brały udział w tych 3-osobowych też masterclassach, żeby po prostu napisały swoje opinie, ale według mnie bardzo się sprawdziła ta wersja i ta wersja była też dostępna w przeszłości w wersji 1:2. W tej chwili zapraszam Was do programu 1, czyli ja i 3 osoby ze mną. Zostało jedno miejsce w tym najbliższym naborze, czyli ruszamy już za moment, bo w pierwszej połowie października będziemy zaczynać i następna tura będzie od listopada i też można już się zgłaszać i też osoby już mnie pytają, ale na ten najbliższy termin jeszcze zostało jedno miejsce. Jeśli ktoś by chciał, był zainteresowany, to zapraszam do kontaktu bezpośrednio ze mną, czyli możecie wysłać mi wiadomość przez fanpage albo odpisać na mojego newslettera i wtedy umówimy się na konsultację, ja wszystko wyjaśnię, jak ta współpraca będzie wyglądać i umówimy się też z pozostałymi osobami na wstępną konsultację, gdzie się dogadamy co do terminów spotkań, i jeszcze też zobaczycie, czy będzie Wam po drodze razem pracować. Przeprowadzimy sobie taki krótki small talk po angielsku, żeby było jasne też, jak się wypowiadacie i jak się ze sobą po angielsku również czujecie. Zatem jedno miejsce i ostatnia szansa na nabycie e-booka za 49 zł, 2 kawy. Ok, thank you very much for today. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me, to send me a private message or just reply to my newsletter. Okay, I'll be with you probably in 2 weeks and I will send you some again. Okay, via my newsletter, via my newsletter, I'm gonna send you via my newsletter, I'm gonna send you another list of topics to choose for our next meeting. Okay? Thank you. Have a lovely weekend. Take a rest. Bye. See you soon.